Good afternoon, everyone. I am Luis Yat. I come from Guatemala. I belong to the Quiché Mayan from the Mayan culture, and I'm here to talk about beliefs. We know beliefs as an interpretation of reality, and in our mythology, when the gods start creating humanity, they tried first with mud. The grandparents, the gods, tried first with mud. But mud was really soft, and the human couldn't really stand up and was not being able to stand up. And so the gods sent rain, and the human disappeared. And then they tried with wood. And it was strong enough, they combined it with mud. And these humans forgot about their gods. And so they were sent to the trees, and they become monkeys. And the third tribe, they called a grandma. And so the grandma gathered the 4 colors of corn: yellow, black, white, and red. And with this corn, they created the human, and we believe, Mayans, that we are men of corn. And since we interpret creation and its belief, what it makes us what we are here, I believe in this because it gives me a little explanation in mythology and science too at the same time. Mud being the meat, wood being the bones, and corn, our feeding, being our blood and heart and brains. And today I'm going to talk, this is a research on progress that I'm doing about the slingshots. Mayan community has been under colonialism for over 500 years from the Spanish, and recently for other countries. And when we talk about art and Mayan art, many times it's associated with folk art or folklorism. It's not associated with actual art. It doesn't go to that level because the colonial view doesn't want to see it this way. So my point of research on this is try to prove our own existence as Mayans. And in school we are taught that Mayans disappear in the classical period, they call it. That's before Jesus Christ. Or they say also that aliens came and Mayans were aliens, and we left this planet. And that's only ways to deny our existence in our own land. We are 70% of the population in our country, and it's very important for us to exist and to be and to accept ourselves. So today I'm talking about slingshots. I think everyone understands what a slingshot is, yes? And if you don't, I'm gonna pass you some pieces. Here in this picture I have an old pre-colonial ceramic piece. This it's a round piece of ceramic, but in this picture I have make it flat so we can see the whole round art on this ceramic. And we can find in this ceramic a lot of elements like a deer, a jaguar, a monkey that is in the front with a hat, rodents that are very common in every day. This is a modern weaving from also my community. This is a traditional textile to modern days. As you see here, there is 2-headed birds. I don't know if you can see it from here, but also I will pass it to you so you can. And also, as you see here in this modern textile, you find a lot of elements that are, if you see the slingshots, you will find a lot of those pieces, a lot of those figures represented in the slingshots and this art. Here we have another piece of ceramic. We have the jaguar, the rabbit, and the monkey. Okay. Monkey is the symbol of art together with jaguar. They are representatives of art because monkey represents our animal side and also close to the humanity elegance. So one thing that differs us from animals is art and language. So considering that monkeys represent art because of their elegance and because of their aesthetics of walking or moving, and also jaguar represents art because their beauty and their skin and also for the elegance of walking. But most of anything, it represents also the animal side, which artists are associated with being wild, with being expressive and doing whatever they feel and their character to do. That's another piece of ceramic. Another one where it's represented too, and there is and this one there is the writer. If you see this person in the front there is carrying the writing paper and also the ink, the symbol, the epigraphy, and the ink, it's akabal. Akabal is it means the writer. So that's to prove that there's a connection between art, and there's always, when they represent art, they put the two, the monkey and the feline, on the slingshots. Here is a carver. I choose this ceramic because we are on a carving event, so that's the carver right there having a chat with the monkey. This is a modern carver in our community, and monkeys are also popular dances. And this is the collection of his slingshots. I'm going to show you the monkeys first. Series of, can I put this in an automatic or some way that it can just go steady? And can I get it to go just by itself in a way? I'm sorry, it's in Chinese, so I don't know where to go in here.
By themselves?
Just make it so I don't have to type it. Slideshow.
Slideshow.
This is a collection of monkeys here. So slingshots have existed for many centuries around the world. It has been used for farmers mostly to control pests, to protect themselves for small predators. A shepherd can use it, so when a wolf comes or some big cat is present on the forest, then they can use a slingshot and scare these predators. However, in Guatemala and in the Mayan community, the slingshot has jumped beyond the Y shape. The Y shape is the popular one around the world, and that's a way that you shoot directly into the center of the Y. And this, the work, it's focused in that actual wooden part. And so instead of having a Y shape, it has different elements that are connected to the community. This is, again, the tiger present in the slingshots, as you see. And then we have the rodents, or all the animals that represent the things that we want to take care of with the slingshot. In 1817, Mr. Diesel in the United States vulcanized the rubber, and the Y shape and the slingshots became popular around the world. That's another invention that Mayans are denied on, the invention of rubber and the invention of the mixes of these elements to make elastic. We have found pieces that are pre-colonial and on the sites that show the use of rubber and sandals, the use of rubber and different elements. And so I believe, and like I said, this is ongoing research, but I believe that the slingshots are way before 1817 for us. That's why people have able to carry all of those elements that are important to our culture into the slingshots. The slingshots in this case are showing the rabbit. The rabbit is related to the moon. I think in many cultures it is. And that's the god Ixchel, which is represented with the moon. Okay, here I'm showing the hunter of the authority, or the person itself. And art, in the last century, a lot of carvers have been carving Jesus Christ. That's the way they sustain themselves, and that's the way the aesthetics ask them to carve. And the slingshots, we are able to represent ourselves, to say that we represent as we are. We don't try to be, we don't fix our noses, we don't change the color of our eyes, we don't make ourselves taller, we don't make ourselves skinnier, because we are able to accept, and it's important as artists that we are able to accept and represent the community as it is. So here is people that doesn't have the characters of Western Occidental characters, you know, a very short person, just like everyone in Guatemala is. We are not tall people, but if we as artists can represent ourselves, we are able to help society by accepting those ways of aesthetics. And then we have the deer. The deer is representative of the dance. As you see, the deer is it's an animal that is always jumping, and it has elegance too. And this is another textile. It represents the deer over there, in this textile. There's two deers in this picture. It's another slingshot, deers. And then death. When the colonial came, we were forbidden, or we have another mythology about death. In our funerals, we celebrate funerals for 9 days. Why 9 days? Because we have 9 cycles. Just like when we are born, we have 9 months of processing. So when you die, you gotta be ready, because you gotta spend a lot of money. You gotta feed all your neighbors and whoever shows up in your funeral. It's probably the biggest party you have in Mayan community. It's not when you're born, it's not when you're married, it's not when you're 15, it's when you die, when you have the biggest party. My father himself has been preparing since I am probably 12, telling me that he's gonna die, and I think he's gonna keep going. And so when we represent these things, when the Spanish came, I have read so many books that condemned our art and said those things are the devil. The devil should be burned. And we remember that when those times, that's in 1500, people were burned in a stick. You know, so a lot of artists were probably burned, and a lot of art was born too that represented itself. So slingshots has a been way, because it's a personal object. It's not something that the market decides what you make. It's something that you decide what to make as an artist, because it's a personal, useful, and practical object. We have the devil here again, which are more colonial times, you know, where the devil was able to be represented, because remember, with these slingshots, you kill some type of life. It's either a bird, it's either a mouse, a squirrel, something. So there is a representation of the devil in colonial times. And something like this picture, if this would be found in the 16th century or the 15th century, you would probably be burned too, because you would represent this type of, or this shape that would be a sin. This is a mix. This is representing the process of the evolution. As I said, the mythology talks about monkeys and humans. So there is it's a science and also mythology together on that shape. This is colonial times. We're representing here saints. So also slingshots has been a tool to represent history. Has been through the centuries. Those shapes have maintained, but also changed according to what history is. I will show you more later how that has been proceeding on an evolution. This is colonial times too. Some person with wings. And then the dog. The dog represents friendship. So when you have a tool and a slingshot, I guess you say, oh, my slingshot is my friend. Therefore, I'm going to represent it with a dog. More dogs in there. And then the rodents. Why the rodents? Again, because the tool is used for that. So if a person has a slingshot that is in the shape of a rodent, means that person is using that slingshot for that element only, because it's very important for that person to have a way of permission to do with that tool what is they gonna do with the tool, say, and to carry to take care of pests. And then we have something very important here on the slingshots. This is also a ceramic, pre-colonial ceramic. As you see here, it's a naked woman. It's a guy very happy there next to her. And nudity has been forbidden in colonial times. And there is no art in Guatemala that has nude figures except for slingshots. There is no textiles, no paintings, because there has been a censorship on art. But on slingshots, I have found so many pieces that represent nudity. And I'm showing you here some of those pieces. I think this piece is found over there. And then birds, of course, because a lot of, and that, when you have a bird, a slingshot that is representing a bird, normally belongs to a person who is very poor, because the people who are hunting birds are the people who can afford to go and buy a chicken or buy some kind of meat in the market. So it's also belonging to a person who doesn't have the money to go and buy meat. So that element represents that it's a permission to go and kill that bird. We have here the two-headed. I think it's running around too. If you can pass it in the back, would be nice. The slingshot pieces. The two-headed and the textile. I show you the two-headed bird, which looks at the past and looks at the present. The two-headed bird means present, because it looks at the past and looks at the future, and that's what we believe in our mythology, that present is made of. It's made of memories and it's made of hope. Again, more birds here. A lot of them are. Some of the carvers are just repeat the same figure over and over, and a lot of carvers keep changing, and some of them become masters of these pieces, like this piece here. Also, another thing that this piece is probably 200 years old, and what I found in the older pieces is that they have jade incrustated. They have very fine pieces of rock incrustated and the pieces, which means there are different times where people were more, have more money, have more economical power to do more art and to make more improvements in their art. This is modern slingshot, how do you say sirenas? Mermaid, there you go. And so we have mermaids here with squirrels again. Squirrels is a very popular slingshot figure because that's mostly our pest in Guatemala. Guatemala has 220 microclimates, and so we have a lot of different pests in our mountains. There you go again. And before when I started my research, I was talking to a person who was the carver, and the carver was talking to me about the relationship that trees had with the tool. He said that they make sure that a lot of the hardwoods are cultivated in the forest because in order to make these slingshots, you need a very strong wood because there is a lot of necessity of resistance in the wood. So we passed walking in the mountain with this farmer, and there was a big pile of wood. And then he said, I look at that wood with different eyes because every piece of firewood I can make 4 to 5 pieces of art on that. So I have definitely a different vision on what wood does to me. Okay, here we have in the 80s. In the 80s we have a war, we have a conflict that's still what happened in Guatemala was a genocide, but it's not as accepted as genocide. It's accepted as an internal conflict, they call it. And internal conflict was more likely a repression of the government where 250,000 people disappeared and 500,000 people were killed. So at those times we have a lot of pieces that are found made in the 80s that also represent, again, I say the slingshots carry a little bit of history because in this collection here I can see a lot of war elements that were created on those times. There was no very much documentation except for press, international press, but there was not many documentation of our own documentation of that happened. Slingshots were able also to document that time. There you go again. And mostly of these carvers are people who have the ability to just be passionate of what they do. They are not pushed by the market. Again, market only allow us to represent ourselves as a folklore, allow us to make replicas of Jesus Christ, which has been an oppressor idea for us. So I'm sharing here some of the people that I consult so far to make this research, and I will be happy to answer many questions. Since it's an ongoing research, I gain a lot from your curiosity. So please, it's your time.